So if you haven't been following along, this is a 67 body. It was short bed, 2-wheel drive on the ground. And so I shortened the frame and used square body leaf springs. And issue that happens is you move these leaf spring mounts so far back on your frame that if you run a trailer hitch, there's all sorts of stuff in the way. So I got a trailer hitch, not for this truck, just off Marketplace. And basically I need to avoid this mount. I didn't want to remake that mount. I picked up this trailer hitch and I couldn't even tell you. I think it's for some kind of newer Suburban or something. But the issue is stopped right here and went all the way over. So I needed to cut this 4 inches out so I can clear that mount I just showed you. I wanted it to mount on this side. It barely hits the frame here. And then I'm gonna use a pre-existing hole for this and then use this back mount. So I will have 3 nice bolts. I know this thing's slotted so you can have a little bit of movement and stuff, but I don't want that. I want it always in place. So basically once I get this up in there, I'm gonna drill these holes straight through here, straight into the frame. That way it's always in the right spot, because 99% sure I'm gonna run my bumper mounts straight off of the hitch, because again, I don't have any nice place to put those old mounts. So that's the game plan, unless something else pops up, but I think that's the game plan. Another thing I had to do, because this thing came too wide, is I actually cut all that old weld out, slid those in, and then re-welded it. And it's actually, you know, I'm not the best welder, but I did TIG everything, and it was only welded on one side, so obviously they're not that stressed on it, which is kind of crazy. Welded both sides, you know, good penetration in there. So it just takes forever. I really need a water cooler for my TIG torch, because I just can't run heat that long like that. My torch burns up. I'm gonna get this mounted up. I also went and got my exhaust where it mounts to the mufflers. I had to get those flared and opened up a little bit so that it fits the mufflers better. I can mount my passenger exhaust. My driver's exhaust is most of the way done to the muffler and a little bit past. So I'm gonna try to piece the rest of that together, because all this stuff has been driving me crazy. So run my exhaust, get my mounts all up in place. I might not totally get bumper mounts in. I'm gonna kind of just eyeball it. And I think I want to get my bed totally solid in there before I make those mounts, because I obviously you need your bumper like dead on or it looks horrible. So I just want to get a general idea of how I'm going to run my mounts, because I have 2-wheel drive mounts, but they're going to be a little different. I really want it together. I think the idea of it is to get it together in bare metal without clear coat. And I should be done with that and have it running by Spring Carlisle. And then I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take it to Spring Carlisle and have it for sale in bare metal. And if someone wants to buy it and paint it, they can do that. If someone, they can rock it bare metal if they're crazy, or clear coat it, because that was my plan. I was going to run it just clear over the bare metal like I used to run it, and throw my old school camper shell on there and just rock it like that, because I like the imperfections and stuff like that. But if someone really wants to paint it, you know, and they just want like the chassis dialed in, the, you know, the engine I'll have running and cleaned up and painted by then. So that's kind of the game plan. I like to have 2 trucks there. The 36 GMC that's sitting out there right now in the wind. If it doesn't sell by then, it'll be there for sale too. And then have this truck maybe in a tent so that it doesn't get rained on, because it always rains at Carlisle. Finally finishing up this exhaust, but while it was off, I went ahead and stripped it down. So if you were super concerned about all that rusted exhaust pipe, once you wheel it down, you know, it's decent. It's gonna get painted black. So I welded these little hangers on, you know, and I like them like this, and then you just run this little rubber boot on. And I will recommend, if you are doing it like this, get these solid ones. I ran the other ones that have like a hole in it, and they tore off both sides. Hang on about the same, and I tried to get them as symmetrical as I could. There's 2 hangers. You can tell one there that needs the end chopped off, but Hopefully it's not too hot up next to the wood. If I find out it is, I'll just make a little heat shield for up there. It's tucked up in there. Both mufflers sit okay. I got a decent amount of space between the trailer hitch, and it's got some side to side movement, but the way I mounted it, it doesn't really have much up and down, which is fine with me. The bumper hangs down pretty far, so that bumper, this hitch is hidden, so that gives you an idea that my bumper sits about here, so I don't have a whole lot of space, you know, maybe inch and a half or so. If you think that it looks like it's hanging down real low, your bumper is 8.5 inches tall, so it covers up most of that. So I'm on the fence if I'm just gonna go buy a starter and mount that starter up and wire it up and run the engine. That's definitely the smart way to do it. I should probably run that engine just to make sure it's working fine, and then pull it apart and paint it. But you know, smart decisions are always the thing I go for. So I'm gonna keep stripping all that down, that way I can paint it. It's finally warm again, and I think the game plan is I'm gonna start stripping this cab down to bare metal, and I think I'm gonna slowly start getting this bed together. I would like the bed totally together so I can throw my camper shell on and just start getting that mounted, but I need to strip down some of the paint off of the bed sides too. You know, my bed sides are sitting over here. I cannot wait to get all this stuff out of this side of the garage because there's not much space over here, and it'll just feel like I'm actually getting something done. So I was you guys, I would recommend taking your exhaust to an exhaust shop. It's just so much time and money. I'm guessing it probably only cost you a couple $100s to get them to do it, and time and money, I'm way more into that, you know. Like, I got the exhaust pipe, most of it for free, but the stuff I didn't, you know, I got money into it, and time wise, I'm probably triple the, you know, I'm probably $600 in labor into this, I'm sure. So yay. All right, let me show you what I worked on the last week or so. This hitch, like I said, I had to narrow it so it fit in the frame rails, and now it mounts up here all nice and wraps around that mount, and it's all TIG welded. Also, I ran that exhaust, and so I got those hangers in, and I still have to strip that passenger side. That's why it looks all disgusting, and it'll get painted with some high temp paint. So now exhaust is in. You know, I can mess with the mounts just a little bit just to get some more clearance, because I got only about 1/2 inch right now. And this one doesn't really go up because of the way these rubber mounts are. You know, you have to compress all that hard rubber. The other side has a lot more movement, so I need to mess with those mounts a little bit more. Whenever I pull them off, I got to cut some ends and stuff like that. So exciting, because I could tighten it up and start up this engine whenever I put a starter in. All I got to do is put the fuel tank in and wire a couple things. I already have my harness pretty much done, so that's not a big deal. I just spent the whole day stripping paint off. So I was stripping this pillar, and I told myself, I was like, I'm not really gonna strip the floor. I'm gonna scuff it up, check out any problem areas, see how deep they are, kind of like this, you know. I like strip everything else, make sure it's solid metal, and then obviously I'm gonna cut and patch all this. There's a little bit down in there. Obviously rockers, you always have to do rockers. Cab corners, not that bad. But the floor, I was like, don't get into it. Of course, I'm like, just keep digging into the floor, and it's really solid. You know, there's a little bit up in that line where the seam sealer is. This cab corner is like the best cab corner I've ever seen on any of my trucks. So I don't think I'm gonna do that whole cab corner. I'm just gonna do this little corner, and hopefully it's thick enough metal, it's not too bad. Everything else has been fine. I knew I had a little dent right here, so I'm gonna have to kind of work on that and just kind of pop that out a little bit. And then it seems like everything is so solid in here, which is cool. Once I pull the rocker off, I'll see how good it is, but it almost seems like even if I have to replace that inner rocker panel, it seems like that weld can be up behind the rocker so you don't see it. I was hoping not to have to weld on here, and again, you know, you're just gonna put carpet on it. It's not the end of the world, but I like it whenever you can hide the weld seams. And I got a little bit up in here that I knew that I was gonna have to replace, but if you've ever dealt with these trucks, that's nothing. Usually, especially East Coast trucks, it's like this whole thing's gone, and everything all the way up. Even my last 67, it was like all the way up into this, which really sucked to place. And then I started working on some of these pillars and seeing, I knew obviously my biggest issue in this cab is heater box area, and then there's some Bondo crap people put in here, so I'll have to patch, and I might even just make like one patch that goes all the way over here. The problem with this is getting a TIG torch down into this seam and getting that decent looking. If you were gonna keep it bare metal, it's really hard. So I don't know, whoever buys this, I don't know what the real plan is, but I really need to stop wasting time on stripping this all the way down, because whatever they used on the floor is unbelievably hard to get off. So I just wanted to check, because you can tell, like, I mean, this side of the floor looked the same. You know, it looks real rusty, but it's just surface rust. And a lot of that rust that was sitting in here was me cutting metal, and it's sitting in here, and then water getting in, and so it's just like rusty water that was sat on it. So it looked horrible, but obviously it's nice clean metal in here. You know, if you get in, once you get over here, you can see there's a little bit of pitting and some stuff, but all that over here, solid, which is really cool, because it sucks anything on this line. If you never dealt with it, anything on that line or over in here, it's all spot welded. There's a support that runs here, and then your cab support runs here, and just to get that off and then to get it all back on nicely sucks. And if you haven't seen underneath this truck, it's got, the reason I switched to this cab is because East Coast guys, we don't even know that we have cab corners usually. So these cab corners are super solid. Yeah, again, surface rust, but all that will clean up. And then like, that is insane. I've never had a cab that's had the cab corners actually there. So or the cab supports in decent shape. So eventually I'll flip this cab upside down and strip it all the way. But man, if I was you and I had any kind of money, I would spend the money and get my cab sandblasted. It is not worth the time ever to do this yourself. It's horrible. I really wish I had money to do it right now. I just don't, so I'll be spending my labor. So thanks for watching. Hopefully in the next video, this thing will be all the way stripped down to bare metal, and then I can start hanging the doors. That way I can get all my gaps right, and hanging fenders, and get my cab corners done. I might even do all my firewall stuff first. You know, I want to fix all these pieces, and then weld up any holes that I know I'm not going to use, and then fix over by the heater setup over there. It's horrible. I actually was going to do something else, and so I'd make a cut in here. So now I'm going to use a stock heater, so I'm going to re-weld all those spot welds back up, and then just fix this area. Before I was going to use a nice bead roll panel and do all that, but not worth my time if I'm just going to sell it. So thanks for watching.